Well, hello everyone. Welcome to this session of the Redesign Conference 2020. With this session, we're going to focus on business and community partnerships. My name is Jay Scott. I'm the secondary redesign specialist at the Kansas State Department of Education. Today with me, I'm so excited to have Kelly Whitaker, the principal at Ottawa High School, and Dr. Ryan Cobbs, the superintendent at Ottawa Schools, USD 290. And they're going to enlighten us all about their business community partnerships today. We're coming to you from a different forum this time, obviously. We've gone virtual with our Redesign Conference, so this is one of the sessions that you can choose from to learn and grow in the area of redesign. So, when people ask us what is redesign, what is school redesign in Kansas, we always show them this diagram. So these are the 4 redesign principles in Kansas that schools are redesigning around. And we didn't just make these up in a conference room here at KSDE. These are basically the feedback that Dr. Watson and Dr. Neuenswander, as they went across the state starting in 2015, and asked Kansans all across the state what they wanted from their schools. This is that feedback distilled down into 4 redesign principles. So it starts with student success skills, which is everything from academic to technical to social emotional to civic engagement, employability skills. It's kind of the whole child, a set of skills that kids need to be successful. It's personalizing learning, where you're placing the whole child at the center of instruction. It's also real-world application, where we have project-based learning, internships, and civic engagement. And you'll hear some of that today in this interview. But really what we're going to focus on are the partnerships aspect, that when you're redesigning your school, it's important that you consider the partnerships, because as you transform your school, we all know it takes everybody. It doesn't just take the staff and the students, it takes your community, your families, and your local businesses to create that school that they're all dreaming of. And so today, we're not going to really hit on family partnerships much. Kelly and Stella Tharp, a teacher there at Ottawa High School, have another really engaging video you should check out on family engagement. But today we're going to focus on business and community partnerships with our time together. So we're just going to kick it off with a question here. And then I'll turn it over to Kelly and Ryan to answer. Please highlight a few examples of business community partnerships there at Ottawa High School.
I can go ahead and start if you'd like me to. And so we have a lot of really unique partnerships with different entities in our community that actually come into our building, and they collaborate with my educators and lead some of our career pathways. And so to highlight 2 of those, we have a partnership with our local Ottawa Police Department as well as our fire department. And in our police department, our school resource officer actually partners with one of my teachers, and they teach LPSS classes for the law enforcement pathway. We were able to start fire science that my first year, so 3 years ago, was the first year that we had fire science here at the high school. And we actually completely partner with the local fire department on that. And one of their lieutenants comes in our building and he instructs the Fire Science 1 and the Fire Science 2 course that we offer to our students through that pathway.
And Jay, I would jump in there. I think we have 2 post-secondary entities here in our community, Ottawa University and Neosho County Community College, both reside right here within just a few blocks of Ottawa High School. Both of them have been incredible partners. We've really worked through Neosho County Community College for a number of reasons. In part, Ottawa University is a private university and sometimes doesn't meet all of the needs of our kids in terms of transferring credits and so on and so forth, but certainly Neosho County does. We started a program with Neosho County probably about 8 years ago now, called the C3 agreement, maybe 6 years ago. And what that agreement did was essentially provide free college courses to our students. And I think at one point in time, we were offering about 120 different credit hours through a concurrent enrollment at Ottawa High School. that was in essence free of charge to our kids. I think they paid $20 a credit hour. And certainly we had programs to allow waivers for that if they needed to. But this was a big piece. There were a couple of things that were existing there. One was that we would watch students come through enrollment and have conversations with their parents about not being able to afford to take all of the classes that they wanted to. The generational poverty in our community is fairly extensive. So when I was the principal at Ottawa High School and Dr. Stroh was the superintendent here, we brainstormed this idea about creating an open enrollment platform for our kids because we concurrently taught most of those courses. And to ultimately sign into a contract with Neosho County, guarantee them this amount of money, we could address the dollars that we needed to address there, but create an open enrollment platform for our kids. That is what has become the C3 agreement. We had our first student graduate last year with an associate's degree and a high school diploma all in the same year. That's been one of our most valued partnerships. All of them are great, but that one has a tremendous impact upon the growth of our community.
That's just a phenomenal story. And yeah, Kelly, go ahead.
I was gonna say, and we're a couple of new partnerships that we're recently kind of dabbling in with we have Kansas State Bank in our town, and they've been a huge supporter of Ottawa High School since I've been here, and I know for years previous. And we're partnering with them right now through our marketing and business and accounting pathways to look at how can we offer a bank within our school building, and that does a lot of benefit, not just for us and our students having that opportunity to run and support a student-led bank, but obviously that gives a lot back to that entity because hopefully our high school students are opening those accounts and keeping those accounts as they become adults in our community as well. And so we're just, anytime that we can find a new business in town that can really partner with us to enhance our pathways, and maybe there's something that they can gain out of it, that's really what we strive to do here at Ottawa High School for our students.
So that's really, hearing both the CTE world side of it, right, where you're actually partnering with business or health organizations. I mean, I love, Kelly, hearing that about, actual people who work in that health program, right, the EMTs coming in and teaching students. So that's just amazing, but that's a lot of work to get that to happen. But it's truly beneficial for kids. And then to hear the higher ed story, Ryan, and that's amazing. $20 per credit hour. I think a lot of people would take that. That's a pretty darn good deal. So, but again, that takes a lot of work to do that. And Ryan, you talked about one main reason, the generational poverty that exists there in Ottawa. So the affordability factor was huge. And it sounds like you guys have taken that on. What were some of the other reasons you all decided to really pursue deepening these relationships with business and community and higher ed?
Well, I think when we started this process, there was a big piece. Ottawa has an industrial park that exists here on the northern side, and a number of industries that participate in that area, and they partner through the Franklin County Development Council and have a tremendous benefit to our community, whether we're talking about Kalmar or American Eagle or Walmart Distribution Center or I forgot the name of the steel company that's out there now, but Universal Sign is that we have a number of companies that are there. All of them are competing for the same workforce. And as we have developed as a community, we now have a southern industrial park that again will compete for the same workforce. What we recognized is that we had a really huge opportunity for us to allow our students an access to those industries that didn't exist in other places, to gain insight and in-depth knowledge of what it was going to take in order to be successful in those industries, while allowing the industry into our buildings so that we can begin to be the development of workforce. Instead of having our industries compete over the same workforce and just passing them back and forth to one another, we could be the central cog in the developing of the workforce within our community, and they could know that every year, just at Ottawa High School, you're going to see 100 graduates that are either going to remain here and go to universities or post-secondary institutions, or choose not to go at all. We have about 50% of our kids that go to post-secondary institutions. Some of them right here in our community, others going straight to work. That means we have an incredible opportunity to really benefit and grow the industry in our communities. That partnership was huge for us, and ultimately that was one of the reasons we began reaching out to them to really grow our community and ensure that the industries that are here that are impacting us stay here in our community.
Yeah, I love that, the central cog for the economic driver, right, in your community. So let's move on. What were some of the challenges? So we talked about how hard this is, and feel free to talk about that, but what were some of the challenges in developing these partnerships, and how did you work to overcome them?
I think we talked a little bit about one of the kind of the biggest pushback we get sometimes from the businesses or the community partners, depending upon what we want to do and how we want to partner with them, is that issue of liability, kind of who's responsible, you know, for those students if they come out and they do an internship in that place of business, or you know, what are we going to do if they get hurt? What are we going to do if a concern comes up? And so that is a lot of times a big sticking point. We have a liability form that we have worked through that I know that Stella's done a lot of work with KSDE and in the CTE world to develop. And a lot of times when we can sit down with a business and we can really go over that form and talk with them about really we're releasing the liability back to the student and the parent if they choose to take that on. Then we can tend to get over that hurdle most of the time. There's still some businesses that, you know, get hung up if our students aren't 18 years old due to liability and due to some of the processes in their factories or in their companies that we can't have those students engage. But that takes a lot of time, and my career counselor just sitting down, having those conversations with businesses and figuring out, hey, how could we problem solve around this, or how could we overcome this liability concern to still provide some type of an opportunity for students.
Yeah, Jay, that's a huge one. A secondary challenge is the bureaucracy that exists within the different systems. So, you know, when we start talking about workforce development, most of those companies have an HR entity, but others have different aspects to them that you have to go through different entities to get to the answer. So we might be having a conversation with the president of a company, and the president tells us, this is awesome, we want to be a part of this, here's the next person to talk to. And then there might be another person to talk to and another person to talk to. And you just go on down the line until we get to the point of implementation. And so the challenge is that you can never give up. You just have to be relentless with your message. And you have to know that most of our businesses are not trying to be difficult, or they're not trying to create hurdles for us. It's just the bureaucracy that exists within the system. Some of them have policies and guidelines that are worldwide, you know, that are global. Walmart has some of those. You're just not going to get away from them, which means that we have to change our structures in effort to meet what Walmart needs. And those are the things that we can do, and we're flexible enough as a school system to be able to do those things. But oftentimes that means that what we do with Walmart is very different than what we do with American Eagle, and is very different than what we do with Custom Sheet Metal or anybody else. So it's just a lot of different pieces for us to work through.
And I want everyone to know, I mean, right now with COVID-19 and our worldwide pandemic, it has created an additional level of difficulty sometimes with some of our partners. Some of our partners have had to back off right now just because of their own protocol that they have in place. You know, it's not the time to have students in their workplace, or they're not comfortable coming to us right now. So that has caused us to have a lot of conversations with our Franklin County Development Council. We are looking at purchasing some online platforms where we can have local businesses record short videos and clips about what they do and what they can offer our students. And we think that's a silver lining, because that can be a great bank of information that we have moving forward, not only to highlight the industries here in Ottawa, but in our county. And we're just trying to think outside the box as much as we can and bring things to kids virtually. We've purchased a couple programs that are allowing us to give them some internship experience via some online platforms that we normally wouldn't do, because we would hope to get them actually in those business places. So just a lot of outside the box thinking right now. Again, that takes time. It takes that relentless attitude to sit down and really be willing to chug through this to make sure we're still providing students with the best opportunities we can given our current situation.
Yeah, that's perfect, Kelly. And relentless, you both mentioned that, and that's what I think of when I think of schools that are really focused on developing robust partnerships with business and industry, because it's like you articulated, each organization has a different way they operate, and you have to navigate around that, even though you're coming with one message, right? And so I appreciate that so much to hear that. And yeah, liability continues to be an issue, but that's really good advice. You know, stay relentless and never give up, because it's what's best for kids. So overall, I'd like you both to talk about how these partnerships have benefited your students, but I'd also like you to talk about how it's benefited your business and community partners.
I'll let Kelly start.
You want me to start? Okay. So one thing when I got this position 3 years ago and I was at a Redesign conference, one of the areas of focus for me were our community does a lot for us, and they benefit us in a variety of ways by letting our kids get into their industry, by being willing to come in here and share their expertise with us. But we really started having conversation about what can we also in turn do for our community. And so we are just at the cusp of that, but what that has turned into a lot of collaboration with our city. They've got a lot of really cool projects that go on, like we have these blessing boxes that are downtown that people are just building while they are violating a lot of the code, and the city doesn't like the way that they're being built. And so they have recently reached out and asked if they provide us the materials and the blueprint, can your kids in your woodshop class, could they create and construct these blessing boxes that they would then take and replace with the ones that are violating the code. And so that's just one example. We've tried to partner with the city in multiple other aspects to where our kids are actually building or making something that then is going to go and be on display for the entire community, and something that they can drive around town with their family and be prideful in, that they got their hands on that, or that they were a part of the design. Whether that be more of our art kids have designed a couple things for the city in the last few years, and that's just been a really exciting process for our students, and then we've been able to give back to our community as well. And so that's the main example that comes up in my head right now.
Yeah, Jay, we would go back to two items that we addressed earlier. One is workforce development, and certainly the workforce development here has a huge impact on what we've been accomplishing. Whether we have a program called Junior Day on the Job, in which the city and other entities partner to give our students access to nearly all of the industry in our city, to make sure that the kids are aware at the beginning of their junior year, so that we can provide internships and mentoring opportunities and whatnot for our kids while they still have an opportunity to learn about it, right? So not their senior year, but their junior year, when they still have the ability to maneuver through a pathway, gain access to some of those things that are happening there. But that workforce development has been a huge piece in not only our work with the Franklin County Development Council, and also the drawing of new industry to our community. I'll be honest with you, we have something that maybe not every community gets to do, but we are at the table for nearly every conversation that takes place with an interested industry coming into our community. Anybody that wants to purchase land in that industry park or industrial park, we're at the table talking about how we can build pathways for them, that we can train their workforce specifically for their industry right here in our schools, and we can ensure a particular level of workforce coming into that environment. That has changed the long-term effects of unemployment. Now, take away COVID, and we saw our unemployment rates here in Franklin County be as low as they've ever been. We've seen that in terms of being, like we said, the central cog in workforce development, in which industry is contacting us. They're coming to our building to have a conversation with our kids, trying to draw them from their graduation date to directly from May 15th or whatever the date is to May 17th, going directly into the field of work. So that has been a big piece of it, and certainly a benefit on both sides, which also impacts the other piece of that, which is generational poverty. We know that we have about 60% of our students on free and reduced lunches here in Ottawa. So the more that we can get kids to have industry realized certifications, that we can get training for them that goes beyond just a high school classroom, that we can be specific in their employment with local industries, that we can make sure that our local industries are providing the appropriate type of health insurance and those things that has a profound impact upon people staying in a job and staying in our community. All of those things we can work together with and ensure that when our kids stay here in our community, they have high wage, high demand jobs that result in them continuing to remain employed in our community, that ultimately begin to reduce that generational poverty, which means that we begin to see different aspects of education and academia grow in our community, and ultimately those things perpetuate themselves into a much more positive community.
And you know, Jay, it's really cool. It's junior day on the job. It's getting to the point now where I don't personally know the presenters, but majority of them are Ottawa High School graduates that now live in our community, live in Franklin County. Maybe some of them have gone off to a four-year university, received their degree, have come back, have opened up a business, have received that technical certificate, and they're the ones presenting to our students about that area of interest. And so that has been really cool. And the committee of community members that we have, that is one of their goals. They strive to get an Ottawa High School graduate standing in front of our kids as much as they can when we look at each of the different career fields that we highlight during that event.
Yeah, I just what you both articulated about the benefits for both is amazing, but especially when you're talking about students. And Kelly and I, we've had this conversation before. Ryan, I know we've had this conversation before, but you're not just changing that that individual student's trajectory, you're changing their family's trajectory. And that is an important piece that you can't talk about enough, right? That the impact of education on families there in your community. So, okay, last question. Say whatever you want. What gets you most excited about the future of Ottawa High School as you continue to develop and strengthen these partnerships with your community and local businesses and higher ed?
Yeah, I think the thing that gets me the most excited is our partnership, our continued partnership with our Franklin County Development Council, and really working on that school to career pipeline and making sure that our students know what we have to offer here in our county, know what we have to offer within the city limits of Ottawa, and more importantly, that they know that they're good enough for those positions, that we have kids that are more capable than just working that minimum wage job at McDonald's or one of the fast food places, that those are great high school jobs. But now we really want them to shift that lens to what does a career mean, and what are those opportunities that I have within our own community, and what do I need to do as a student, and how can Ottawa High School prepare me to be ready for that? That is one of the areas that I'm the most excited about, that we are going to continue to strive and get better at here at the high school.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with that more. And Kelly has been a great ambassador for our kids and for the programming that we have at Ottawa High School in general. Certainly we're where we're at in part because of her amazing work and her team's work. If I had to pick out the thing that makes me most excited, it would be that we actually get to hear our students talk about relevance of curriculum now, and that to watch them get excited about coming to school because there's a purpose and there is a reason behind their learning, and they can actually apply knowledge into real world and real skill set environments is really maybe the most exciting thing I think you ever get to see as an educator, right? I mean, it's the light bulb moment that we all love to see when we see a group of kids come in and they're excited because they just landed a job and they now have a path for them. They got to get through graduation, but their job is set up. They're interning at their job. They're learning how to do it. And they know that the day that they step foot inside of their job, it's a 75-cent raise waiting for them because they moved from this step to this step. And we were able to do all of those things with them while they were in school. To hear them, one, develop the plan, see the plan come to fruition, engage in the learning, and to be able to see them excel. It's something that they enjoy and love, and to watch that spark and excitement grow, that is the most incredible thing for me, and I love to watch it. And again, the team at Ottawa High School is so great, between Mrs. Tharp, Mrs. Whitaker, all of our staff, partnering with industries, partnering with Paul Bean at Franklin County Development Council, and being able to do all of those things. If it was just one student that had all, it would all be worth it. But we're watching it with 40, 50, 60 students a year walk out of these programs and know that they would not be where they were at if it weren't for the things that we've been able to put in place at Ottawa High School in partnership with our city and our community and our industry.
And Jay, people always ask me, I know they get envious of all of the partnerships that we have here, and they often ask me how we pull it all together, but I can't articulate enough that if you don't have passionate teachers in your building that are willing to get a little crazy with you and go above and beyond for kids to provide those real world applications, we couldn't do any of what we offer kids. And I cannot speak enough about the educators in this building and their willingness to get outside of our building, to get outside of their classroom, and really think outside the box to help those students make connections from day to day.
Well, there you have it, everyone. An exemplar program there at Ottawa High School from some exemplar people here today with Kelly and Ryan, and talking about their staff and the impact that all of this working together is having on their students and changing the trajectory of their students' lives. Amazing, amazing stuff. So I want to leave this time with a call to action. Just a real simple thing. And I know that COVID is kind of ruling the roost right now and logistics are at the front of your mind. But when you get some time to think about strengthening or deepening your partnerships, which you're probably leveraging those partnerships right now, regardless of what situation you're in. But and this is kind of back to something that Kelly alluded to earlier, is reach out to one local business, community organization, a higher ed institution, and ask, how can we help you? A lot of times it might seem to people out in the community and business industry that it's a school coming asking for something to benefit students, but flip the script on them. How can we help you to develop that mutually beneficial relationship we're looking for? This video is part of our Redesign conference during the month of October. If you go to ksde.org and search for the Redesign Conference 2020, you'll find this video link along with many, many others to learn more about redesign and all the great work that's going on in our Kansas schools. I have our contact information here for our KSDE Redesign team. I have it for Ryan and for Kelly. I can't thank them enough. Thank you both so much for taking some time and talking about the incredible programs that you've developed there and how you're developing your kids and your staff and your community partnerships all as one there in Ottawa. I wish there was a time I could tell you, go and visit Ottawa High School. That may not be possible right now, but maybe in the future, because it's well worth your time. Kelly and Ryan and their staff and students there, it's very enlightening to go and see just the culture shifts that have been made and how they are really developing some robust programs through partnering with their community and businesses. So with that, we'll sign off. Again, Kelly and Ryan, thank you so much. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, Jay.
All right. Take care, everyone.